I was trying to pull up Facebook Live. Hello, everybody in the Facebook universe, and welcome to today's Power Hour brought to you by the Native Wellness Institute. We are the Indigenous 20-somethings Project. My name is Joshua Cocker. I am Kiowa on my mom's side from Oklahoma and Tongan on my dad's side from the middle of the Pacific in the Kingdom of Tonga. And we're happy and super stoked to be here with you guys. It's not clickbait. It's not clickbait. The topic of today is 10 reasons why you should be tribal chairman. Before we get into this conversation and throwing some ideas around, I just want to pass it over to Sib and we'll do our introductions.
Okay, cool. Good afternoon, everybody. Yat'e, sha'asir bigay yanishya, tapa hanishlet, sinshikina bashashin, bilagana shache, sitna jani chanela, sehotso denasha, shamae Leonard Adams, well, yeah, shaja Brandon Migay, well, yeah. This is my partner, Tomas. He's on the live as well. And I have a little girl, and her name is Hasea. So, currently coming from Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm happy to be with you guys today. So thanks for having me, NWI, I20SP. I'm excited to get into this conversation. And passing it to Tomas.
Yes, my name is Tomas Carmelo Amaya. I am Yoeme and Ashwi on my mom's side and Raramuri on my dad's side. I live in the same home as my partner, Sierra. I'm a Dachu, a dad, a very proud dad of she's gonna be 8 months old now. And let's see, I am a photographer and filmmaker and writer. And I'm also grateful to be part of this conversation. Always a good time with the homies, with the fam. Shout out to NWI and I20SP.
I guess that's me. Hi, everyone. Hello, Naha. My name is Shailene Joseph. I am Aani on my mother's side from Fort Belknap, Montana, and Koikon Athabascan on my father's side from Tanana, Alaska. I'm super excited to be here, and especially talking about leadership and just having a conversation with some of my favorite people. It's always a good time, so I hope that you join us in the chat, and we'll get this going.
Perfect. I had the chat pulled up so we can be able to see everyone's comments and see who's coming on with us as it's happening. My Uncle Kenny's joining us from Oklahoma, and I just commented as NWI, so just clearing that up. Thanks for being with us. Perfect. Yeah, so I wanted to talk today, we wanted to talk today with everyone here. And please feel free to join the conversation in the comments, and we'll answer questions and be able to have that feed going as we're going as well. About tribal leadership and what it means. This, of course, being December, a time for Christmas, if you celebrate it, a time for hopes, dreams. And we, as the Indigenous 20-somethings Project, wanted to explore some of those ideas of leadership together with all of you guys as well. So I have a quick question to get us going. And the question is, what does being a tribal leader mean to you, to all of us here? I'll answer last. So whoever wants to go first.
I'm sorry, this just in. Shailene, they want you to go first.
All right, yeah. Get my tribal leader voice on. Just kidding. Yeah, no, I'll kick us off. You know what? I was thinking about this a whole 10 minutes ago. And, I think one of the things that I was, chatting with Josh about is when it comes to leadership in general, it doesn't necessarily mean we are the loudest one in the room, right? I think leadership can come from any kind of place. And it's a place of, especially when we're talking about our communities, is working for our communities, right? Uplifting our communities and doing what's best for community. But that also means, bettering ourselves. And with that comes education. And I don't mean necessarily in an academic sense. I mean, holistically, right? Education of who are we and what does that mean for us and what does that mean for community? Going back to like in a ceremonial sense, or back to community. What is our place? Where do we fit? What is the gift that we have that we can give? Right, because everyone has something to give, and we have skills and the things that we want to achieve. And so how can we best find our way as a puzzle piece of the community? And so I think, with education, there's so many routes to go. I've been reading a lot, on social media, people talking about different forms of education. And these are conversations that are happening a lot more often, right? That not always is the academic route the way to go. I learn so much from this square here, right? I didn't mean to call you squares, from these people here. Right, like education is something that we can all sit in, participate in, and find the people who, just like you think about to old times, there was someone in community who was really good at something, and you would send your kids to that person to learn that skill, right? And it can be the same now. There is somebody who knows something that we want to know, and we go to them in the right way to ask them to teach us, right? What can we give them so that they can give to us? And I think, we can still do that today, and especially because we're in a pandemic, y'all. We're physically distancing, right? And it doesn't, a lot of the time, differentiating what physical distancing is and social distancing. We can still be social online while being physically distant. And so, we can still ask of those things, maybe not all things, because some things shouldn't be online, but I think we can still ask for those mentors. We can still meet over Zoom or FaceTime or whatever outlet you use. There's so many educational outlets that we can best go after or try and find out for ourselves. Leadership comes from a place within, of wanting to feed that fire that's within, wanting to feed the goal that you want to get to. How are you going to get there, right? So those are kinds of the things that I think about. And when Josh and I were checking in, and when everybody hopped on, is like, what makes a leader? And I think it's an individual journey for everyone. But the one thing that we all have in common is thinking about community and what is our place in community. And yeah, I'll stop there and let my other square friends hop in.
All right. I'll take this one. First, I'll point out Josh's shirt. It's cool how it's opened up. It's like a abbreviated version of grandma up is grandma up. Grandma up. Shout out to that shirt. It's a dope shirt. When I think of leadership, I definitely think of all the points that Shailene and Josh have brought up, of understanding a place in community and the responsibility to that community, like how you show up, how do you make yourself of service. I also think about when we're sharing ideas, let's say right now with the pandemic. I consider my mom a leader in our family, and she sent me a text, and it was this video. She knows I'm a pretty visual person, and it was an explanation of what the scenario is for a lot of us right now with the pandemic. And it, in a very simple analogy, explained kind of the risk that is around us. And it explains it, and I'll say it really briefly. It's the example of a frog being in a pot of water. I'm not saying to do this, but if you put the frog into a pot of boiling water, it'll immediately feel the threat and jump right out and save its life. If you put the frog in lukewarm or room temperature water and turn on the heat and slowly warm it up, the frog will eventually get too tired where it can't even save its own life. So around these times where we tended to gather with other family, and we have all these different interactions surrounding our different festivities and our different ceremonies, the winter solstice coming, it's hard to step back sometimes and look at the real threat. And it speaks to, this analogy speaks to how comfortable we get because we've been months and months at it of protecting ourselves and taking precautions, so we can become numb to the situation. So when I think of leadership, I think it's about sharing ideas in a way that is accessible, approachable, that also takes into account our different learning methods. And so for me, it really brought in that message to me. And I think that even that interaction with me and my mom, it is a sign of leadership. She's looking out for me. She's hoping that I bring that to my household and to others, my friends and my extended family as well. So Sierra and I like to refer to this, saying that it's a lot harder to take something complicated and make it simple than it is to take something simple and make it complicated. We all know that uncle that wants to overcomplicate things, but we love him too. Shout out to that uncle. But that's what I wanted to talk about, is we really need to stay safe, y'all. I know it's hard and there's no judgment here. It's just that analogy really at least sunk in for me personally, that we're not really perceiving the threat just because it's been so long, and we don't want it to be too late. And all of you are precious, and we want our leaders to have a chance. We have amazing leaders in the making, that have been in the making, and I don't want to see them go because of us losing that kind of protection for ourselves. So a couple words there. That was a text that I got from my mom just today. So passing it off to Sierra.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Oh, my babe, she's asleep right here.
Oh. Wait, this way. I don't know which way.
Thank you for sharing, Shailene and Tomas. I just want to say hi to everybody that is tuning in right now. Naomi, Tammy, Kenny, Fabian, keeping the chat going. Thomas, Brandon, and Donna. We appreciate, this conversation. So sorry, I have like
It's like it's the mom whisper. She's like,
it's like trying to be loud and quiet at the same time. So for me, I think that right now is a really interesting time because there's a lot of things changing. Of course, like the pandemic has happened, but I feel like a lot of us are definitely more politically active than we have ever been before. I feel that myself. And before this, I wasn't as involved with tribal politics. But now I feel like I'm tuning in even more than I have before. And especially with this past summer, with the Black Lives Matter movement, it's really woken me up and made me think about, the things in the human rights that really matter and that we should be paying attention to. And so, coming out of the pandemic and recently, I've been, looking and reading more and watching more lives and seeing who's, stepping up and distributing things to our families and our elders. And so that has been something really interesting to see and watch, because I now reside in Phoenix, Arizona, and my reservation is the Navajo reservation, which is about 100 and, I would say like 130 miles north of us. It's kind of where it starts. And so to be able to be involved through social media and online has been a really cool experience, because, before, a lot of our meetings, our chapter house meetings were, are done in a place where like not a lot of people have internet access. And now a lot of those tribal people have been like stepping up and posting things more online and making it more accessible to those that don't live on the reservation, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm happy to get more involved and learn more about what's all going down in the Navajo reservation. And so there's a lot that this pandemic has made me aware of, and also coming into motherhood, of how I also, want to be more involved and give back to my community. And I'm excited to, continue this conversation with you all here today. I feel like there's probably a handful of other people who are in the same spot as me. And so just learning from, Shailene and Josh and Tomas in this conversation, it's awesome. So I'm happy to be here today.
Well, thank you guys. And we have a lot of comments happening right now in the comment section. Some really good discussions about leadership. People are dropping things like different attributes of leadership. People are explaining how it is that we can step into leadership into our communities. When I think about leadership, tribal leadership pertaining to our indigenous communities, my mind goes to connection, because we as like the individual don't have everything that is needed in order to best help our people. But if we're connected to our community, then we as the people will be able to lift in the best ways. And I wanted to, so that was the first question. I just wanted to leave that super open, use that word tribal leadership, and like, what does it mean for our communities to, let me just take a step back here. So the Indigenous 20-somethings Project, which we are all members of, our goal is to end the negative and harmful effects of intergenerational and historical trauma. So every power hour that we do, every training, and most of our just like personal conversations revolve around that, to be honest, when we're talking and hanging out and kicking back. And so, what does that mean? The negative and harmful effects of intergenerational and historical trauma. It's not as broad of a brush as people might think, and maybe even sometimes in our own communities. The truth is, what happened to my people, the Kiowa people, is a slightly different story than what happened up with Shailene in their Aani community, and also Sib and Tomas in their respective communities as well. So these attributes of leadership that are being dropped, if we could adopt these things on an individual level and inspire them in those who step up into like of leadership in our communities, like tribal chairman or tribal council or elder council, whatever the governing bodies are in our communities, then we'd all be better off. I have a question though. I was saying to Shailene, I'm really happy that we have this platform to be able to talk, in our planning before this, because when people get on, they want to know what the Indigenous 20-somethings in this crew have to think. So I now that we've started the conversation of what makes a leader, my question to you is, what are some, how to frame this question? What are ways that our communities can experience sovereignty? What are like our hopes and dreams for like the sovereignty of our people? And just to get it going, if that's okay, I was on a panel in Lawton, Oklahoma a couple years ago with my sister Jordan, and they asked this. They said, "What does sovereignty mean to you?" It was really awesome to be able to talk about in a room full of adults with a few of the tribes in the area's chairmen, because Jordan and I talk about this all the time. If our tribes were allowed to, and I believe we are, ally with each other in terms of like resources and like buy out land and start farming like the animals and crops, we could eliminate like the food shortage in our area. People wouldn't have to go hungry. We'd have like healthy food opportunities for them. And then as well, like looking overseas to New Zealand and in other countries, as well as Australia, what the Indigenous people are doing with the education of their people, like in their own communities, it would be awesome to see what's possible here in the States in terms of like how we educate our kids and where they are educated. Because I know there's a stigma in a lot of places like, oh, if you go to school in the res, it's not as good as if you go to school in town. You know what I mean? And it would be cool to be able to switch that up. And I believe that our peoples, like if we were to come together, would have a greater ability to lift the status of some of those places,
Mhm.
improve the facilities too. Oh, my mind's kind of running away. I'll pass it off.
I just want to add something really quick. So, I thank you for sharing. I had seen this post on Reclaim Your Power, and I just want to read it off really quick. And the person who had shared it is Pure V Sage Bundle. I think that's what they go by. And their post said, I'm not self-made. I'm community made. I'm family made. I'm land made. I'm ancestor made. I'm made up of everything and everyone that made me exist outside just myself. And for me, I feel like I really connected with that because it just made me feel like so humble. And I think that, when we start thinking of ourselves as more community based, we can, bring and raise stronger leaders. For myself, I feel self-conscious calling myself a leader, but I know I am because my mom raised me to, speak up for myself, love myself, and take care of those around me. And so I'm thankful for her to teach me that. And I know that, not a lot of times we have the opportunity to hear that from our parents or our caretakers. And so I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. And we can all be our own leaders within our own households. And one of the things, one of the conversations that we had with I20SP is, this conversation that we're having now is a healthy conversation. The more healthy conversations that we have with my relationship, like Tomas and I have a pretty good healthy communication, which leads us to have bigger healthy communications with bigger crowds of people. And the more and more conversations that we have within our community, we can bring healthier conversations from there. So just want to add that really quick. Oh, we can't hear you.
There we go. All right, dang. Oh, okay, we're on. I was gonna say, good kind of a segue to combine a couple of things. Speaking of sovereignty and healthy relationships, as we build that collective force or collective connection and community, understanding and respecting the sovereignty of the individual is really important, especially in a healthy relationship. And once I heard it expressed in that way, I really started thinking about kind of decolonizing the way that we look at relationships and having, let's say, gender roles or different things that are not really in line with our indigenous teachings. And so it makes me think about things much differently when I ask myself, am I respecting Sierra's sovereignty as an individual? She is a sovereign being. Even my baby girl, who, again, some people in dominant culture, mainstream culture would say, she's a dependent. She needs to, be supervised. Absolutely, we need to protect her and keep her out of harm's way. However, she is a sovereign being as well. And a lot of our job is to make sure she's safe, but also allow her to express herself and be her own little person. And I know in a lot of our cultures, our babies hold a very special place because they're closer to the holy ones, and there's just a lot that goes into that. And so respecting the sovereignty of individuals and understanding how to do that goes a long way in building a community, because then you establish those boundaries for each other and you learn to work in respectful ways, so that when you have those goals that Shailene talked about, it's much easier to achieve them. It's and when I say easier, it's going to come with challenges, but you then are better prepared when those challenges come. And so just to be more concrete about it, respecting sovereignty could even be like, right now that we're parents, is understanding what breaks mean, or like a moment to be, you know, with yourself and in your thoughts. And so it's been a challenge for me as a new dad, and having a lot of, I feel like, responsibilities and projects outside of the home. But I really have to meditate and think about, you know, if I am I overstepping and not allowing for the time that Sierra needs to be, not just in her her role as a mom, but her as a sovereign being, as Sierra, you know, the artist, the thinker, a creative, whatever she wants to be. That really is a humbling feeling, and respecting it leads to, I feel, a much healthier relationship. And I feel like she does that for me as well. And so just tying those kind of ideas together, I think it adds to building a stronger community.
Awesome. Can I add to that?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm going to address this comment actually, because now it's been put up twice, and that's my relation. So I'm going to address it. So Brandon has been speaking about leaders are born, not made. Creative sentences are cool, right? But here's why I'm going to agree with that: is that everyone, whether you're watching this or you're watching it later, if you are in this world, you were born into this world, you're born a leader. Now, those things that are that come after are, do we nourish those things? Do we accept our place, right? Do we find our place? And everyone has a place in leadership, right? And it's up to us in our power to step into that, and to be ready for what comes with it. I think when we're talking about leadership, I mean, like I said before, like, it comes with education, and a lot of the time it may just be learning about ourselves. And to go with sovereignty and talking about our own self-sovereignty as beings, but also our actual community sovereignty, right? There's so many ways that we can step into sovereignty, whether it's food sovereignty. You see so many people who are like really getting after it in creative ways, right? My brother and I have been kind of figuring out, I don't know if you follow me or him on social media, but the way that we cook, and trying to cook with grown foods that either we cook or grow or our grandparents grow, and doing a little bit more in that way, so we're not always relying on having to buy. The meat that we eat is what my brother hunts, and so last night we went all out for our grandparents' anniversary, and 3 days ago my brother cut up an entire deer. He processed it himself, and then he left the two hindquarters, the back of the deer, and he put them in a brine, a 3-day brine, and then we smoked it and then cooked it, right? But we're talking about something that may seem small, right? But food sovereignty, the things that we can do in home. And that's not saying everybody can go out and hunt. There's a lot of people here in the chat that are saying that they're from urban areas, right? And so what kind of things can we do, as in maybe even just a garden, right? There's so many things that we can simplify down, right? And step into our own leadership in home, and see what does that look like for us, right? If we what are the things that we're good at, right? Step into those roles, and don't be afraid to do so. I think a lot of the time there's going to be so many people who are going to have something to say. There's always something to be said, right? But if we're going in with good intentions and wanting to learn more and be willing to learn more, you know, failing doesn't need to be a fear. It's just getting back up and relearning the process, and kind of going from there. So kind of reverting back to the comment, everyone here is a leader, and it's stepping into that role of what that looks like for us. And I think one of the biggest attributes I think of a leader is listening, and being able to hear what other people have to say, listen to ideas. My mom always says, and my grandma says, you know, take the good and leave the bad. Us in this conversation, we've talked about this so many times, right? If there's something that doesn't work for you, then it's like, cool, I heard them out. It doesn't work for me, and I'll carry on, right? If we have, you know, I see some of our friends who have these massive gardens, and I was like, yo, I think I can do a garden. And I always said like, oh, I'm not home enough. We're all home, right? Like there's nothing we can't do. 2020 is the year of let's get creative. And what are the things that we can do while we are at home? And these things can also be our biggest tools of self-care, is stepping into our own sovereignty in this new age of technology and being online. In the same way that like I've been going to language classes and trying to step into that role of finding out of more who I am, right? And so, you know, there's so many ways that we can get creative that this online world gives us access to. And even if you want to step outside of the online world, you know, there's people that we can call and say, how do you even start a garden, right? Like even the basics. Josh and I have talked, I think on this Power Hour months ago, about how the trials we had with our gardens and having to re-dig them back up and replant, right? We had to do that here. I think everything it's not necessarily trial and error. It's just try and try again. It's learning from the mistakes that we have made, maybe even those around us, asking people I keep saying garden, but if there's something else you want to learn how to take photos, ask someone to teach you. If you want to learn about language, ask someone to teach you. You know, there's so many ways that we can step into our own being, our own path, and doing it in a good way. I think leadership isn't this one thing where we're like, they're the only leader, that means I can't be, right? Leaders will pull people in. They'll gather people physically distant, gather people online, right? They'll bring people together in a way that makes everyone feel accepted. And I think that's the direction that we need to continue going into. In my opinion, we don't have the time to, you know, say who's a leader and who's not, and you're doing this wrong and they're doing it right. It's everyone is doing, and we need to continue moving forward in a direction that's for our communities. So all that being said, if you're watching this, you're a leader, and I appreciate you.
Thanks for sharing, Shaylee. I just want to comment on Z's post. They said, sometimes it requires we becoming vulnerable to ask questions to learn from others. And that comment just, you know, brought back a flood of memories of, so the Native Wellness Institute puts on a leadership conference for our youth in the month of December, which would be happening around this time. I'm gonna start crying because I miss everybody so much. And, you know, naturally, we probably would have all been together during this time. And so it's amazing to see our youth, you know, stepping up and being vulnerable with each other. So this, you know, this conference is about 4 days long, and seeing our young leaders, you know, somebody who was quiet at the beginning of the conference to being the loudest one in the group at the end of the conference, it really, you know, makes me think of like what Shailene said, like how do you nurture each individual for them to show themselves. And so I just wanted to put that out there really quick because that's what I was thinking of.
No, that's beautiful. If you guys have a chance when the Native Wellness Institute has that conference back on, send your youth, please. Send your youth. I don't know if you guys hear everything going on in the background. We have a
Beautiful.
boy and a 4-month-old baby. Both right now are staging a coup and are overtaking their mom. So um, there might be some ambient music in the background here. Dope. I'm really glad that we took that idea of sovereignty and made it our own and started exploring different ideas about what that means. I really, really, really like where the conversation was going right there at the end. This idea of what Shailene was saying, that all of us are born leaders, and it's about cultivating those attributes within the individual to help them realize what they mean, what they can mean for them as an individual and us as a community, right? When I was younger, going to ceremony, we're surrounded by family. Everyone has their canvas tents up, the nylon tents, and their teepees. And the teepees are painted back home. Not all of them, but some of them. And I had an aunt who camps just up the hill from us, and her teepees always had these really cool paintings on them, like deer, with this, you see the trail of the throat going down and it shows where the heart is. And I believe there's an elk on them and like depictions of like hunting. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Well, as I got older, I started realizing that, oh, my cousins are hunters. Oh, that's why it's on their teepee. And our battle teepee, which sits at the mouth of our arena, also has depictions of wars, Vietnam, Korea, World War II, World War One, Desert Storm, Desert Shield. Any war that our warriors have fought in, our boys have gone to, it's put on our teepee. And I love that, like how transparent that way of communicating is, when I was much older, I realized that my cousins were people that I could go to for help if I wanted to know about those things. I kind of wish that, I suppose social media could be seen as that, but I kind of wish that there was a way to there was a way to put that out there too, correct? Because in our communities, it was like, you didn't have to be good at literally everything. You were good at what you were good at. People could see that on like your teepee and then go to you when they needed help. But that takes courage too. Like, I'm this good, I'm putting it on my house, like I'm not like, oh, I'm this good at skateboarding, let me spray paint a skateboard on my house. But if we all took the time to nourish those skills, it would be that apparent. You sitting in a room full of people, and just by having conversations with them, you begin to feel the things that they're good at and see the things that they're good at and be able to build off of them as well. Our communities right now, in this crazy time of 2020, I personally, in my short 27 years of life, haven't seen this much like polarization in terms of like politics, and also seen like what that does in our community. So I like times of holidays when you're frustrated because you can't see family, and then also being frustrated by political outcomes, whichever way people are leaning towards. I would hope that even though we do live in the U.S., continental U.S., that our people maintain those ideals and like live the attributes of leadership that we're all talking about, that we all agree with. I'm reading the comments, people are agreeing with what we're saying, people are adding to what we're saying, people are even taking some of our concepts and making it their own too, enjoying the conversation in that way. These are the types of conversations that we should be having. And I just want to reiterate that this is why I believe that Shailene is correct in saying that we are all leaders. We all have the ability to make positive change in our lives. Okay, my question, since it is around the time of Christmas, and I hope this isn't too out of line, but what if you guys could think of like like a Miss Indian World, question. What if you could wish for your community she got Princess Wave in terms of like progress brought about by leadership? What are the things that you want to see for your community in whatever that means for the future? You could think like 7 generations, it's about 140 years. You could be like, by next year, it'd be dope to see whatever it is. Let me ask that.
I feel like eyes are on me. Oh, Tomas unmuted himself. You can go first?
Sure. Unless you want to go first.
Oh, please.
Just wrapping up that last section and what y'all brought up in the conference that Sierra mentioned, it just came to my mind that it's not called the Future Native Youth Leadership Conference. It's called the Native Youth Leadership Conference. So tying into what Shailene is saying is like knowing that we're born leaders is really important, and respecting and acknowledging that power that we have from the moment that we're born is, and before, we can say, is really important. So going to Josh's question, something that I would like to see for community, it could be as far as what you said, 7 generations or even more. Just something I would like to see. I would like to see even more visibility. And I think when I speak of visibility, and I think of the world that I work in a lot, which is in media and I guess entertainment a little bit, since I'm a filmmaker, I think of a lot of great work from organizations like Illuminatives and the NDN Collective. It really excites me to see that level of hard work dedicated to that visibility, as we show future generations that we, one, exist, because media has told us in a lot of different ways otherwise, and that we are excellent at so many things, as Josh and everybody else is saying. The more we're going to be able to continue to flourish in everything that we do. And there's a lot of staggering statistics about how little we're shown. For example, one of the title, or one of the cards that I saw from Illuminatives the other day was in primetime television and big major movies, natives are seen 0 to 0.4% of the time. How this ties into leadership is, we know that when there's political campaigns, where does a lot of that money go? It goes into ads. It goes into telling stories of who you're trying to vote for. The thing is, a lot of those dollars, it's changing. We're getting more and more grassroots support, and the ability to fund Indigenous stories by Indigenous people. And I'm not saying that money is the sole solution to these type of problems of visibility, but it certainly helps to know that the people channeling the funds and that energy, as my brother Thosh would like to, or likes to express it, that it's done in a good way. So I would like to see even more increased efforts to uplift our artists, our singers, our dancers, our professional TikTokers. You're all out there, shout out to you. And because it's such a huge force in our everyday lives, media, it helps open a lot of doors to our scientists, to our engineers, to our beaters, to our breakdancers, to across the whole gamut. And so another thing that I've noticed from those organizations is the give back is so important. So there's mutual aid tied into the overall mission, the overall purpose, the overall drive to getting people together. Oh, cool, we're coming up, we're getting numbers, we're getting the metrics. Great, this is beautiful. Now let's spread it. Let's spread all that goodness, all that abundance all over Native country and beyond, all over the world. And so that's something that I want to say is, like, I'm hopeful for the continuation of hard work that's already being done. And so thank you to organizations like that, like I said, Illuminatives, Indian Collective, and in collaboration with the Native Wellness Institute. And more of that, please.
I think, well, first off, in the comments, one of our favorites, Howie, she just joined us. Hi, Howie. It's good to see you. To add to that, I think one of the things, it's also my wish and my hope, and you see it happening as well with these amazing orgs, is one, like, to be able to see us in the way that we want to be seen. But also when we're talking about like mobilization, right? If you're looking, okay, so the political climate that we're in, that I'm hoping is not ending, right? Biden and Harris were elected, okay? They were elected, but the community won, right? They were elected, we won. Or we, whoever voted for them, sorry, not to put everybody up in there. The community, right? The people who really rallied and put in the work, right? That mobilization, I think, is so important for community, because so much can be done. So much can happen, right? If we all are on the same page and it's like, yes, this is what we want, right? Now, this mobilization is important because although they were elected, we still need to keep the momentum to get the change that we want to see happen, right? And that's where leadership steps in, is where look at a community level, or if we were looking at our tribal politics, who is holding those positions, and how can we continue to have those conversations to make sure the appropriate change is being made. I think so. That's one of my bigger hopes, just to kind of keep it short and quick, is that the community has say so. We may live in these systems, whether it's on reservation, off reservation, right? Different jurisdictions, but we have a say so. We are still humans. We are still important beings within this system, and we have the agency to create change. When we gather together with a common purpose, we've seen it so many times. There's nothing we can't do. You know what I mean? And sometimes it just means getting creative about it. And so just like my last final comments is really the hope forward is also the hope for now, is that we all step into our own agency to be that leader that we want to see, the leaders that we need. And also, you know, bringing the youth with. They're not the leaders of the future, they are the leaders of now. The age that you are now, you are a leader of now. If you are an elder, you've done the work, you've been a leader, and continue to do so. And we can all grow and learn together. I think the hope for the future is also the hope for now, and we have so much work to get done. And that's, you know, just kind of how I wanted to. Last final words.
Awesome. So I just want to jump in again. Sierra jumping in. So the question again was, what do we want to see for our communities, whether that's tomorrow or within this next 7 generations? So I think I totally agree with what Shailene was saying, with like seeing more people step up and step into these different leadership positions. And leadership can mean a lot of different things to different people, depending on, you know, how they're thinking about it and what their mindset is. If that is, you know, thinking of all of us as a circle, as a sphere, and not as something as a hierarchy. And so just lost my train of thought. okay, it's back. And so my wish for like our community definitely would be people stepping in. And it's something that I feel like a lot of us are taught is, okay, yes, go out to university or go out to trade school or go and get some experience and bring that back to our communities. And I think that, you know, a lot of our young people have been doing a really good job at that, and I just wish for more collaboration as more younger people are coming back home, so that they don't feel distance or, undermined. And so my wish is for more collaboration within all generations. So definitely our 20 somethings, want to come in and help. And I pray that, our older generations are going to accept us with all of that love.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, team. I always feel like these hours go by way too fast. Way too fast. We're almost finished. Um, my hope for my community is very similar to Sib's, actually, or Sierra. I have this uh desire. So my niece and nephew are 5 and 6 years old, and they're like super tiny. They have their little clothes that they wear at ceremony, and we love seeing them run around and hang out. Um, and every year we have these family breakfasts, and we also cook for the Men in the Warrior Society, so that they can come and have a place for coffee and food. Uh, my hope is that my daughter and her children and their children are doing the same thing. Like, if I could see that far forward, I want to see all that happening. Because if that's happening, I know things are being taken care of in the places that are absolutely necessary. Though, I guess in like a really broad term, like, we're still being kaiwa, and that's my hope. Because if that's the case, um, we're still making it. Our title for this power hour: 10 reasons why you should be tribal chairman. We talked about a lot of things. I have just a few final words to tie things up before we all say goodbye till next time. But I want to say this: Shaileen's right. Every person who is born, who draws breath on this earth in this life, matters. And we were gifted to the people and places that we were meant to go to. It was not by accident that we were born into these places. I heard once this term, birth lottery. Oh, you didn't know where you were going to be born. It just happened, and that's what happens. I do not believe that. I love the people and the communities and the families that I was born into. I know for a fact that I chose to be here with them. All of us here are drawing on the gifts that our first mother and creator have gifted all of the people since the beginning of time, and will continue until the end of I don't know what. The fact that we're able to be here and choose our mindset and to be able to choose the direction of our life is a powerful thing that we're entrusted with. Just a thought: millions of people wake up every day in cities all over the world. And if you were to ask individuals in those cities, how was your day? You would get different answers. The world is not this decisive picture. It's like a blank canvas, and our mind is like the paintbrush. One of the things that I would hope is that all of us begin to acquire these attributes of leadership that we've been talking about and have been seeing in the chat, and we begin to live them and love from them as well. And as we do that, then we will become the people who our ancestors hoped that we would become. I'm not saying that we're not those people already. What I am saying is that there is more good things out there for us, and we deserve them because we're here. And that's why we're here, to receive all of the good that this life has to offer. This season, during the time of COVID, can be a little bit more lonely than it was before the time of COVID. And we know that this time of the year was especially lonely for a lot of people. So my hope is that all of us step up, take the mantle of leadership, and reach out to the people that we love. If a name or a person comes to your mind, contact that person as soon as possible, man. Just let them know that you're thinking about them. Be safe. Know that you're loved. Be great. And we look forward to seeing you guys. There's going to be power hours for the rest of this week. It's been noted in the comment section. NWI, the Native Wellness Institute, has re-upped on their short orders, I believe. Okay, we got a nod yes. We got a nod yes. So go ahead and hit up the Native Wellness Institute. We appreciate the support, guys, and we're glad that you're here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Any other last words, team, before we split?
I do. NWI right now is doing, would you call it a fundraiser? A GoFundMe. Our board member and dear mentor, Cecilia Fire Thunder, recently, very recently, her house burned down. And we all know that this is an especially hard time. And so it is on our social media, it is on our Facebook page. So even if you can't donate, a simple share to try and get it out to people would be much appreciated. I know that our family here has been praying for her. And so, maybe you can join us in that as well. And like Josh said, everyone here, we appreciate you. You are a leader. There are so many people who are rooting for you, including all of us. And I'm excited to see you guys again, and maybe more frequently. Yeah, Tomas, Sib.
All right, I guess I unmuted. Just want to say, yeah, thank you to everyone that's participated. Every time I participate in one of these talks or power hours, I always learn something, and I make sure that I am prepared to learn something, even though this is a person that I live with, or these are people that I consider family, chosen family. And so I hope that you also feel the same way, that you learn something, and that as you, a leader, can use those tools to help your community, your respective communities. So Elakwa, thank you again for listening to us. And I'm gonna read the comments later because I don't have it pulled up to follow along, but add to Shailene, supporting our leaders, because we are all leaders, is really important as well. And so if you have a chance to check out that GoFundMe, definitely, if you can give something, it will go a long way to people that we really admire and care about. So thank you very much.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna do this 5 round. 10 reasons why you should be a tribal chairperson. Number 1, your experience is completely different from anybody else's experience on the res, whether you grew up in an urban area or a rural area. Boom. You are a leader. You're awesome. You're watching this power hour. And that is awesome. If any of you are in your 20s, come check out our page on I20SP on Facebook, Instagram. That's where you can find us. All right, 6 more to go. You are your ancestors' wildest dreams. Well, 5 more to go. Help me out, guys. Help me out.
You're worthy of good things.
Your community deserves to hear what you have to say.
He was kind. He was smart.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having us.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time. Be here tomorrow, same time. See you later.